Greetings, Gamer Radio, the official OutlawGamers.com, where we live to play. I'm Britt Allen, who really believes video game that can temporary blindness resolve and will wrap up development 15 minutes. Lauren!
Be my favorite intro of all time.
Telling you what.
Awesome. How are you, man?
Amount of spittle that is now in my... That is what is awesome. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yes, gentlemen, recording from the United States of Denver, Colorado, wonderful north. So,
not sure where you're...
No, I'm not sure. I'm happy to. So, States. I'm excited about you and I on the gaming front.
Known for the first time ever.
Excited about that, and we might be able to get excited about that. So
it's gonna be great.
Very happy. So, thank you for getting time to do the show. In the airport, very, very tired. I came in yesterday, but I wanted to.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with making a story a little bit. That story has something to do with going to be ready for, when you're going to implement your I mean, like at that point, having some problems.
Before we do, Brent, let's start off, take a look under the hoods. You made up interesting topics as opposed to... real surprise to me. I was not aware of this game.
I wasn't either. Well, and I mean, the first trailer for it seems within the last week this has been... But it is an interesting title. Be few. This is they worked on a show called Contrast. It would launch titles for back in. This is their next. It's very, very interesting trailer to kind of a. I don't know, almost as like that's kind of the feeling I get from it, or with a little bit of The Prisoner. Well, I mean, I'll test it any way he wants me.
Yes, you will.
My point is rather, it's definitely got a oppressive sort of vibe to, you are the odd man out, and it's decided to, and whoever isn't whoever is death by a mob. But anyway, check out the trailer. It's the style will remind you of Contrast, or maybe even in the BioShock waters. It's definitely got a weird vibe to it. Watching the trailer, not really knowing any.
I thought I did to see what they do with it. I haven't played mixed things about it. I think people, and maybe they didn't play elements fully. I didn't play it myself, but
evaluation.
I mean, I definitely will check it out. I think this looked interesting. I was surprised that it zombie as it was. And I thought it was a really it was a weird combination, and to me, soiling. I like the idea. Looking forward to seeing more from the game. Some super looked a little bit like the original Dead Rising. They showed some and I hope that there's more to it. That I'm looking very forward to finding what exactly that is. And I thought it was sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's pretty evocative and giving you some kind of the tone of the game. Talking about the kind of the zombie mythologists sort of talk about of what they are tropes, clowns, and the fear behind a mob. It is the everyone else being against you. That's the root psychological of zombie trope or whatever. So I think that's actually an analogy that you're making.
An interesting piece.
Yes, indeed. So possibly the new game trailer to ever appear on the. I kind of message behind this. This is the Steam release trailer, Social Justice Warriors. You think that it sounds at the trailer, you'll come across this on Destructoid. It's trailer, and imagine it's to the game and a lot of the stuff being thrown around. Then that's just to me, and the premise of ostensibly that it is using air quotes here playing game. Justice cleric, a social justice kind of thing. And you've got to take on them with your mad social. And it's a looking game, gameplay mechanics, not plex. Looks like, mostly just X menu as you go through kind of turnet trolls. And really precious to me is reading through there's one person who says something to the effect of, it's getting a vibe. This is kind of Warriors. It's like a lot of us are getting that vibe. The reason that this is in the doc, we've talked a little. I'm fascinated with the as political space. Certainly this would qualify somebody's political opinion made as a video game. I think that means, how thrown together. But it's a element that, just as documentary films, like the written word, political stuff, forms of expression that have existed at some point or another. We're now living in, and bear in mind, but we're now living in a time being used as that. Very, very fascinating.
Very curious to get your take on putting mine out there. And I actually interrupted you while you were talking about, is this making Justice Warriors? And you very quickly, yes. And I actually not. Because, and tell me if I'm wrong, looked like if you were looking at they were watching it on a small computer, like what was being typed by the kinds of trolls, and neither one of them had much reputation or what was the other
Sanity.
bar?
Those are your two kind of resources.
I know nothing about mentions where I purposefully did not go,
and I don't either, for the record.
Really purposefully did not go read about it, but I wanted to have the discussion of what the intent was. See how actually reminded me, and I have papers, please. I want to say this is your
this war of mine.
To really understand the emotion, and game are really coming social justice warriors, but they're I thought the two people doing the same thing are basically relatable to each other.
Exactly.
Coin.
That's the exact point, is that these two things are not
and they're ending up like, it seems that way in our and that they're in place, and the place that they're both, and
that's exactly right. We're no sanity,
and I'm not so sure that making fun of them as much as it is like, look at this. If you step back and look at perspective and you try not to be one of the, look at what's actually going on, and after we have this discussion and read a little bit more about it and see what the actual gameplay mechanic, but I thought it was,
I think it's a really fascinating of an idea, and it is vague enough. Perhaps it is that you can kind of look in and maybe what you see of your own. So I also buy it, and I'll be kind of what kind of coverage? I don't know, mainstream gaming.
I understand it, Brent. Correct me if I'm wrong, but on Steam, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So go check it out. Next for me.
Next, it's the news you and I have been to hear.
I seriously stock it on this,
and
you can read it verbatim, Brent. But I was like, you've got.
The title of the article is "Assassin's Creed will feature more future." End quote. Stared there, looked at it, and I'm just, the thing that I was thinking about is Ubisoft does not want me to play. I am obvious person that they, in terms of the player base for this game, be running in the they were, and on to explain that there were more Unity that due to budget constraints. They talk about how assets from her to get levels in the game, that as a result of that, committing to doing more game, which of course, if you look, Lauren and I, the Assassin's Creed games do keep pulling you out of the past, and we really have no interest in that. I know that there's that's the whole point of the fucking. I don't care. I don't think Lauren does.
Not even a little bit.
It's we both agree. Parts we would like those games better. That's not the only detail of the future of the Assassin's Creed, because they're here from lead writer Darby McDowell explaining they are really reusing the assets that they've to get more mileage out of the series. So this is, he's talking about that only was they're able to reuse it from Assassin's. So the future, and this is the reuse thing, so that we can have modern day. We've created 700 years worth of start teasing out for the next years or however low. And this on an Ubisoft Live, this is coming from an official source, is literally for decades. If people keep buying them, these Assassin's Creed games, for
milking it, but milking assets.
Yeah, with that of that term, and I don't know. I was thinking that's being really honest about it. The fact that they're being very upfront, trying to figure out a way to many times for 20 years off this. at least all the question, I suppose, is appealing to you listening. Do you think this style of Assassin next 20 years of your life? I'm really asking you that question. Any video game for 20 years. I'm trying to think. Is made for 20 years. Video game series that you've played.
Series, yes.
Okay. How many? Because at this point, the year. So.
Time before this one was like 10.
And that's what I'm saying.
I was being technical.
I think they're being with. Their audience might get with these releasing one a year, and they're going to be game to game.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. So first of all, no, we want more of the future. In and of itself seems to be very fan base, but it's been a thing for most people, not everybody, but people who are like, oh, awesome. You go to Assassin's Creed, focus on making those better. I don't think it was interesting for process being on the inside working for months. I recognize it. Is it worth it? And for example, we're looking at, let's just say, adding a couple more hats or something as alternative. Those cost thousands and thousands. Right.
And so you've got artists, you've got it's all have to have their hands on it.
Tens of thousands of dollars
to make any kind of change.
And look at Ubi is at it now, having worked in the industry. That's going to cost us $500,000. Makes no sense. That's your audience is fantastic. Transparency or how use words. Obviously, anybody who's got to be some sort of that's when designing video, keep cost manageable and 100 hours designing something as you can.
Absolutely.
I don't know that as I was talking to my fan base, how I would. My Daniel Kaiser's absolutely. We talked about it, but I'm going to maximize the incredible 2 years and use that as a next 10 years or however wants to enjoy our franchise.
Upon the rich resources and talent established to make the series.
That's right. That's exactly. But
it's like bullshit is a little bit bullshit.
I'm pretty soft at this point. Like their department is to keep putting their foot in their mouth. It's funny actually. It's really funny. So yeah, I mean this is just on 8 the most enjoyable, more modern day segments in the future. When I was bought a game, Fran, I really need those parts where and doing absolutely
modern day cave, Lauren.
Keep doing it.
I think I've game series at this point. I mean I've always a slightly contentious like I was saying, it's just I'm not saying like they shouldn't. They're an evil corporation for 20 games over the assets. I mean, if people are enjoying playing, then but as I said, the realization there's nothing in the Assassin's Creed, which is sad because I ought to be the. I came to that
sort of. I keep trying with that and dissatisfied. The only. And never finished, actually. Yeah, and it was nothing to do with 6 previous games and being subsequent games. It was mostly enjoyed and the ship.
Don't you think they're going to spend? I fully expect that they're going to spend pirate game.
I haven't seen it or heard any talk about it.
Coming up,
they keep churning it out, and it was universal. I mean, is that part of that game?
I think they really. And Baron, I've barely. But I think based on what I've seen, people who have played it talk to me about. It's like they some cool stuff. Seems like a refinement of and a continuation. Some kind of ongoing that part of the world. And I mean, think about something. What if they made like fucking Master and Commander? Think about England and France and Napoleon's taking over. You've got the vessels out there. You've got privateers. I mean, they're limitless kinds of ventures that you could have. Don't involve running around in the modern era.
Yeah, honestly, I more.
All right. The garage. Something I might just give a shit about. That is an announcement that HTC and Valve Congress have partnered to Vive. I don't know. What is Steam VR. Featuring the Vive in collaboration and the Steam VR headset. There was even some was floating around. And manufacturing Valve, is providing all the technology inside. They are claiming that this is going to be premium VR to consumers. They are saying that it's got with a 300 and obviously is practical. I think what they're saying is you're not going to have full view in your periphery. They also offering a quote unquote experience will let you get up, walk around space, inspect, and truly interact. We don't know exactly how that's going to work. Of tracked controllers, it's probably going to factor in. And then it's coming out damn soon. Their development kits are spring, which the spring and that the available at the end of 2015. What they say. We've got a trailer. There's we'll throw the one to get that so you guys can read up. But Valve going head to head, Oculus Rift, Gear VR, the VR space. It doesn't here. And the market of people competing for territory. What are you excited that Steam and HTC are hopping into?
Of course, I am. I think it's fantastic news to me. I had no idea. At first, I was confused about VR partnership with I immediately assumed it was, again, something you put a phone in.
Far from it, it would say.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up as you were talking. There's a couple things. Obviously, you mentioned the full room external sensors that come with this thing, 3D space, which is a 60-degree thing they're talking about. Using I can look up, but I believe that it's 1920 by 1080 is going to get 1920 by 10. We haven't from Oculus on this. Valve had been working. Edition uses 2 12 displays, all right, ostensibly. This is 2015. I don't know them, and we'll talk about why. But
I was going to say, that seems pretty ambitious.
They're putting out a developer on holiday. Oculus for 2 years. It recognized the software ecosystem means that killer apps and games mean their software point in terms of the UI. And to be there, people aren't going to find it. I hope that. I mean, obviously, I can't really tell if team product partnering with, or if it's mostly an HTC product. I can't really tell.
I'm thinking it's probably something wild that they've gone to a partner.
Having this, I have a bit more hands. The game space, how in VR, that's and compelling games, to be honest.
Yeah.
The fact that they're competition, the fact that they're bringing in that part where sort of move around the room is. And I think that the HoloLens we saw, this is nothing but good. See two huge companies like this. Again, solidifies, not that we $2 billion investment from or the Samsung, Microsoft, and the HoloLens, but it's coming, and this is coming soon. Here. I think that Oculus is going to at the latest. That's my. I have no person whatsoever. It's just this is. I'm glad it that way because this is in Brazil waiting for my
no doubt
card too. On top of that, but exciting news to me, Brent. I think we know. I mean, we have some of the details. They are going to be showing it. This recording starts today, 4 days. So GDC is all week this week. Even more to talk about it next week and some more information on where it's going. But yes, I'm to you that I'm very excited by this.
Excited by it as well. VR and. Oculus Rift prototype available to Kickstarter. I wanted to wait for the consumer and have the more and just getting whatever now there's a choice. You're talking about Sony. You're talking about Oculus. What I would perceive to be our experiences. I'm not sure if gaming focused. I'm these things come out into the marketplace, come out for these things, and it's just I don't love it. We're just like right on the cusp of it. What really kind of got the trailer, if you linking to in the document, advertisement for VR, like watching that for me, it really kind of clicked. It was like, this is future. We're sitting here selling you VR, not based on refresh rate, the pixel density, or sensation, or any of the thing here selling you VR. Imagine what you could with VR. Sun from orbit, the oceans, surface of the earth, of a protein cell, all of that stuff. That is what captured my image. What it's always excited me about VR. See that somebody else out of VR too is pretty exciting.
Before you and I are standing there eating virtual sausages. Well, wait a minute.
Well, and watch. That's what we're going to be doing in VR. Surface of Mars watching porn.
I don't feel good.
In the clubhouse, we're going to kick up and we're going to talk. Really, really interested. Daniel on the show this week, with us because I think on this. Everybody for come to OGR. Really excited to have him on the show. He had a lot of fun and probably won't be the last time. Everybody for making all of us. No poll. I really didn't have. I don't have. Hey, did you like having DK? How was that gonna?
Well, Daniel's feelings because we know how people.
But anyway, we only have a poll this week because an item to discuss this week. Lauren, you shared with 2 ago, I guess.
Yes.
And this is mid-February, so it's a couple weeks. This is an interview phone with John Walker, Molyneux, and creator of the face, and also as given the is known as a guy who promises a lot of things. Sometimes
true.
That was kind of a thing. That was kind of in the years up to Peter Molyneux and his current went to Kickstarter for the game that there was. And the fact players for money that they were going to get certain things, certain awards for contribution tiers come through. As you may remember, named Brian Henderson is going to become Godus. He was going to be an element in the game because Curiosity released is basically John Walker from. Well, I'll think question of this interview is him asking Peter Molyneux, pathological liar, in the literal sense that to be an asshole. He is
he might be being one. You say that. No, he definitely was.
He does clarify later on, and do you just habituate and not in that? It's a long interview too, probably to read through the whole thing. I suggest doing it because it's fast. Molyneux's, I think, are pretty. He generalizing to defending to the press, and basically, I think that is understand that and that it's not. It's as I said that it was going to, but you have to. I'm really, and I am, and is like it's chaotic, and John Walker responds at one point for 30 years, like all that experience, that it was going to take the game or that it was going to cause this and that. And Molyneux says no. Idea that that we would go over schedule with it, and it popped up. to spend money on, and I didn't. And Walker's press accounted for those things. You should have, because you've been making games for. And at one point, kind of says that from Kickstarter wasn't going to be enough, and that full budget of the game on Kickstarter, part of it there, but part of it's got to come from the really contentious things. Is that promise that the game wasn't going to have a publisher, 2 cans, and starter, and of course since gone outside of that promise, or the mobile version, is that their version still will not have a publisher. We'll look at that as controversial. That they to his fans said we won't do this. He says, look, that's the only way. The money, and they said, but £100,000. And he's like, well, we knew that goal wasn't going to be, and so there's a really to that. I can't even right now, but probably one of the most, I think, interviews I've ever to Frost and Nick's in the comments to this article, because it was. I'm not saying that to assign or saying like, oh, you really went for the job. It was one of the most reviews I've ever read.
And I think it was a very good...
I agree.
Molyneux sort of... You're attacking me. You're making people like you. It's these are the kind of things that cause people you want. And exactly the interview that needed to continue to take place, Brent, over the years. This idea of constant delays and that sort of thing. John's spot on, where he was like, 30 years. There's alive that have been doing it longer than you've been... That you don't have the ability... how long a game is going to... and further yet around how much it's going to cost. That why do you should know at this point. And I frankly software development for in a couple different bugs happen stuff challenging, but I would think at this point we would have figured do that, and how to do, more importantly, that we want that of features that if budget and timing allow, it doesn't look like it's going to, then we don't there that are doing one of making games in the time frame, or you're not talking about it in a public way. That one of the two. Right. I honestly don't think, the interviewer is trying to Peter Molyneux to necessarily not trying to. He's discussing the question I've talked about for many years. Why are you? And if you either know after 30 years you should know you can make, or you simply years that you shouldn't be making one thing. You're a capitalist or you're public, you need $1 million, but going to the public and asking. This is one of the best gaming or not in a long time, and I would love exact same interview. And it's not just Peter Molyneux; he's not interview insofar as this interview. I would love to exact questions and from Ubisoft, from company name here. They've all done it. Activision, and is when they're actually, why are you doing this? Commitments that you do in this business, you should. It's not going to happen, or you should know. I think it's. I did not on the part of you.
Bounds, although there are maybe it got a little bit petty. Molyneux, he makes some sort of comment about he's working harder than he is to deliver on. And he says, we got GDC coming on, and walk event last weekend. I don't remember the name of it now, but of something that he says, okay, well, look, like it's like it's huge. It's not like a huge Tom or it's not that. I think it has something to do with thing, but you have to be like a little bit petty. We're sort of the definition of event. So I didn't effective, but
I think what he's trying to do there
demonstrate. Look, you're doing it right now.
You actually can point to one from last week.
That's exactly what
and I'm not going to let you get away, Brett, by it feels a little bit. Totally disagree with your assessment. But like I said, a journalist who's done his research saying, what I'm talking about. Stop. If you're going to say that, say all charity events. That's not. And now you're arguing.
No,
is.
That's sorry. The reason I didn't respond to the article, I wanted to kind of quote him directly just to give some for what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Example. Here, rock, paper, shotgun, quote, he's quoting Peter Molyneux, you and our unbridled, and 5 months later, publisher, Peter Molyneux says, at the time, I wish we had raised a publisher. You got more than you asked. Talks to him a little bit, he goes into some other stuff, certainly the economics and everything. It's a very time talking about crowdfunding, and Walker responds, know that. You've been working in the industry. You know how much money it costs to put a specific amount. Don't. I disagree, John. I cost to make a game. And anyone wants to make a game, which is a fool, or Walker responds, but you to know the basics of budgeting of years. Molyneux says, no, where you're wrong. I think he would go over budget. And then he had some repairs that went over budget. And there you go. Interesting to read. Given the fact that created this media as an auteur, as a designer, it's a treat from that. And this, I think I'll be perfectly honest with you. There were parts of this exceedingly uncomfortable. The questions too aggressive or anything like that. Comfortable is how fragile Molyneux seems, and the more to shift away from trying lies or explain why he said he would do this, or went back on his word, did, or whatever the case is, goes on. He begins to talk about, I'll just leave the industry then. Okay, I'm not going to do press anymore. There's moments where, as if he's invoking, around anymore, place a couple of times. And President's Men not too long ago, the Nixon Frost in my mind as I was reading this, but interview and looked up the clinical, as in, what's path, where my mind went Molyneux, his position on this.
I don't disagree with you. I think you and I, our assessment of the interview, it was uncomfortable, but that all conceived and performed. Is to hear. I want our listeners to can't read the whole thing, and it sounds daunting. Start reading it. Now, my guess is you'll, and even that, just that much. And I want joining the discussion, and we get so little of it. And these are well-researched and well-asked questions, issues in the industry today. And I think with your time, and so I strongly want our listeners to go read this and what you guys think. Brett and I are saying. Don't just agree with Brett and I on what we're saying. If we agree, we're proud. I want to hear what you think, Brandon. I want you guys to and let us know what your thoughts next week. It is time to hit the road this week. To another. So, Brent, honestly, exciting. I didn't really play 80 days on Android. I don't have.
I got you. Well,
so tell me you played something.
I played something. I mentioned a little while ago. My wife was very kind. An iPad Air 2 and games on it, and one of the games. I did finish it on PC. Banner Saga again. Time I played through the complete. About on the show that I experienced with the end, because the final bit of the game rough, and I was stuck and just turned down the difficulty stuff, even though the game exploded that at one point. And and when I finally turned down, but I wasn't having any stretch of the imagination. The experience of finishing the game, I really desperately wanted. One day I'm going to go back. I'm going to play this again. Have done. I know that something about the mechanics in a battle. I don't know. I know that they tweaked to I imagine other people had as well. So the game on the iPad, and I got to tell you, playing the Banner is one of the best game experience. It is number game. Everybody who's seen it knows that style reminiscent of who I was a fan of before the Banner, and all of that amazing turn-based combat specifically. I fell in love with playing X. It's a really, really cool system. I mean, it's mechanics of how to utilize your players and everything. Eat it up. I mean, in terms of gameplay, role-playing aspects, that there is this arcing story that's taking place, Varl and Dredge and going on. But when you're on the road traveling, it stops and you'll get it's a gameplay that there's these two, they're arguing with each other in your resolve that, and if you resolve it, you can you get down as kind of the currency of the game. You upgrade supplies or whatever. Don't turn down an opportunity gameplay out of the game. Like everything to kind of like, there's some game player choice or a conversation tree. They do it. This game again, I fell in love with all of that, and I got to the end fully what I experienced last that they had or something, and I completed that final battle. It took me, but I finished the final battle. I get to the ending of the game, an ending that mood to receive the first time. It is beautiful in terms of its aesthetic quality that you are seeing. I'm desperately, but it is aesthetically that I've seen in video music that Austin Wintry and in that last dramatic moment, but the story. And along the way, the history that you have both with yourself and each other, the cost in the game is as good as I have had in my life. That this is one of the video games that has ever tell you that is that when I starter I needed to go somewhere and fill out would have the name appear under in every backer or higher. I said, you know what? I don't really care about seeing my name myself for not doing. And I watched that and I saw where my name should, and I really did. You know what? I wish that I could shot of this and people, hey, there's my name. This game happened. This game is the best video games that's ever. And me, are a bunch of other people who saw the artwork and said, God, I'll give you money to help make it helped make this happen. I really wish that I would really like to be able to, along with every bit of their money, to existence to facilitate Stoic creating video games in recent years.
You screwed it up, buddy, because you're concerned you had nothing to do with the making.
I hate you.
Just the truth. I don't want to.
Oh man, I can't pull for this game. I can't wait to see. I'm really looking.
Yeah, like it's such it like changed your relationship. How the fact that it wasn't like just, and it became this really emotional. I just think that's fantastic, and I'm waiting for you to mention Austin Wintory's.
The music's amazing.
Austin, I know, is incredible. I just think I'm super excited that you went back and played it again. A compelling on a freaking tab. Nonetheless, I know it's incredible.
That's the thing, is that not just a great game, but great game on that. It ported over. I don't know if they had planned that from the very.
Is it better?
Boy, that's a good question. You know what? Maybe I need to go back and play it on the PC. But I have to tell you, intuitiveness out of just tapping, and it's satisfying. It's very. I'm not ready to say better. Like I've had a fair comparison.
Well, that it plays so well in that game, and it's a platform, and it's so gorgeous.
It is.
So, all right, Brent, with that this week. So, as usual, we want you guys to say thoughts on everything we talked about this week, particularly on talk about Peter Molyneux and the actual interview that was conducted by Rock, the Vive or Vive or whatever it's called, the Steam V HTC Assassin's. More modern day segments and social justice warriors. Love to hear. And then, of course, we talked at the top of the makers of Contrast and everything else gaming. Anything else you want to talk about? Just when you get a chance. I am Lauren Baumgarten, and remember, you get old because you stop.